All right. Good evening, everyone. You are highly welcome to today's Safeoclock Health and Safety Interactive Workshop. So, like you got the information, today we are talking about workplace safety review. So, just like our culture has been, we'll start with a brief presentation. So I have a presentation of about 5 to 6 minutes. Then when it's time to share experience, I will also add my own experience. So today, we're talking about the health and safety review. So in the few minutes, I'll talk about the definition. I'll also emphasize on the importance of safety review. I'll look at the sequence of how to conduct a effective safety review. Then I will now conclude with stating some of the difference between safety review and safety audit, because most times this is what confuses people. So we'll look at some of the difference and we'll be able to share our experience. So what is safety review? Safety review is that system where an organization tends to determine if its own policies and procedures are effective or not. So it's majorly an organization base. It's majorly a workplace interest. The workplace is interested in trying to find out if the safety policies, safety procedures, the safety systems and programs they already have in place, if they're effective or not. It's beyond looking for compliance. So while doing safety review, the organization is not majorly concerned about compliance to legal requirement or compliance to local laws. They're majorly concerned about the effectiveness of the safety programs, the safety procedures they already have in place. So they want to confirm if these programs, these policies are effective for their organization. It goes beyond what the law says. So in most cases, it's not, you are not trying to meet legal requirements. You are not trying to ensure that you are meeting what the standard says, but you are ensuring that the policies and the procedures you have in place is effective and is giving you what you want. What are some of the benefits? First is safety review helps in identifying hazards. In most situations, we conduct safety inspections, but safety inspections might be focusing on activity base. But when you are conducting safety review, your hazards that you are looking at are not just hazards on activity base. You are looking at the hazard based on the programs, based on the policies, and how the organization is managing those workplace at that moment, trying to find out if you are actually identifying the hazards and the risk associated with that activity. Another importance is that safety review helps to build safety culture. Take an instance where the workers are aware that the management conducts safety review from time to time, that the management looks at a holistic approach of this, the activities or the workplace, that from time to time the management conducts safety review. So the workers will have that confidence. They will have the confidence in the management. They will have the confidence in what the organization can offer. So that helps to build safety culture in that workplace. Everyone will be conscious of giving in their best because they know that the management, they care and the management is effective. Now, another importance of safety review is that it also helps in complying with legal requirements. During the safety review, there are certain practices or certain conditions that you will come across, and you look at it again and try to find out what the law says, what the legal requirement says, about this situation, about this condition. So if you don't conduct safety review from time to time, you might not be having that insight of cross-checking if this your policy, this your procedure is meeting the legal requirement. So you are, in as much as you are not doing safety review just to meet legal requirement, but in the process of carrying out safety review, you will be able to have the insight to look around, to compare your policies, your procedures with what the law actually says. So that is one of the benefits of safety review. Another benefit of safety review is that it helps the organization to identify the gaps that exist within the current safety practices, within the current safety procedures. So while conducting the safety review, those gaps will be identified, the action plans will be set in place, and proper corrective actions, corrective measures are put in place, thereby reducing any possibility of incident in the workplace. Let's look at some of the sequence that we can follow to conduct effective safety review in the workplace. The first one is preparation. Of course, before anything is done, it's recommended that you prepare adequately. How do you prepare? You gather information, you look at the statistics, you look at the incident rates in the past, you look at the near-miss record. You gather these informations to equip yourself into what you are going into. Then you form a review team. Safety review is not advised to be done by an individual. It should be done by a team of safety professionals who are experienced and who understands what that workplace is all about. So safety review should be done as a team. It doesn't necessarily require an external party. Safety review is an internal affair. So team of experienced safety professionals is enough to conduct safety review. Now, what is the next thing to do? The next thing to do is to identify the hazards in the workplace, conduct workplace inspection, go on walkthrough, try to look at the equipment, the tools used in that workplace, check their conditions, check if all necessary equipment and tools are in place. Emergency response equipment, all this, ensure that check if these are in place. Then the next step is to evaluate the policies and the procedures, trying to check if these policies and procedures are in compliance with what the regulatory and the standards have stated. What are the effectiveness of your policies, your procedures? Are they achieving what is supposed to achieve? Then the next step is to involve the employees. Most times safety professionals think that because they know it all, they can be able to recommend corrective actions, they can recommend everything without involving the people who are doing the activity themselves. So workers' involvement is very, very recommended during safety review. Ask them questions in the workplace. Try to find out their understanding of those procedures and the policies, even their SOPs, the self-operating plans that they are using. Try to find out how they understand it and how they are implementing it. Now, the next step is to document whatever your findings are, what you identified in the workplace, the hazards, the inconsistencies, the practices, the unsafe practices that we identify in the workplace. You record them, because this recording will help you to be able to develop an action plan, which will help you to monitor if the corrective actions, the recommendations that has been given were implemented, and how effective they are compared to before that review. Now, the next thing is continuous improvement. Review should not just be done once in a year or once in 2 months. Review should be done regularly as possible, and it should be properly documented. So it's a continuous process and a continuous practice. Now, a rounding off, let me look at some of the difference between safety audit and safety review. So in safety review, one of the differences in focus. Safety review is focusing on identifying hazards, immediate hazards, the unsafe practices. Whereas while conducting safety audit is looking at the overall effectiveness of the safety program in that workplace. So in detail also, safety audit is more detailed than safety review. Safety review might be conducted by an internal party, but in audit, you might be needing external auditors in some situations. Now, frequency, audit is not conducted every week or every month or more frequent, but safety review can be conducted as more frequent as possible. So these are some of the difference between audit and safety review from my own view and from my own perspective. And just like our culture has been, after my presentation, I will give room for others to share their experience and contribute in the topic. All right, so the floor is open.
Okay, let me just chip in maybe one or two things. For us as a professional, I believe we have the basic understanding with what Mr. Johnson have tried to explain. So far, so good. Just like he has tried to point out some of the differences and possibly one or two similarities when we talk about safety review and with respect to safety audits at the same time. Because when we look at when we talk about audit, I think audit should be focusing more on the management system. You know, in that case or scenario, you have to look at the entire management system and all the clauses that are covered within the, for example, like the ISO 45001. Then you'll be talking about a full and holistic view and approach to health and safety management system audit. Then while that review may just be being focused on some particular aspects or areas which might be part of the management system as a whole. Because when we look at the management system as a whole, it encompasses and covers what it's supposed to be when it comes to health and safety in general. Okay, so which I believe for those of us who have the knowledge and understanding should be able to get better understanding from the point I'm coming at. So now for the review process, it might be that you know, when you look at the management system and you look at some organization, in as much as it is required for certain organization, if there are more than 5 people to be able to have such system in place, as in terms of ISO, you might still come out and find out that there are some aspects that might not be too probably effective due to the industry or due to the nature of what such an organization is doing. But for the aspect of review, you find out that it should be able to focus on certain things, you know, that are done within the organization that has to deal with immediate issues like hazard, that has to do with culture, that has to do with welfare, those things that you can easily deal with and you can easily review on a regular basis without looking at a third-party expert to come and involve as compared to the management system audit. So like basically it's also like you know, when we use the word management review, you know, in the ISO for the 5001, there's an aspect, there's a part of the clause that give provision for a review of the management system, okay, whereby management and some team members within the organization will come back and review what has been done within the management system as a whole. So the same way, the same principle applicable to safety review, because on a regular basis, there's no standard definition that, okay, it should be done weekly, it should be done monthly, but I think it depends on the nature of hazard within the site, the nature of industry, and how frequent people are exposed to some certain kind of risks within the site. I think that will determine the frequency at which such review can be done within the workplace. But basically and in general, it's all centered towards the risk or hazard within the workplace and how the organization can be able to say, are we really doing the right thing? Are we really putting control measure to a certain kind of risks that are within the workplace, and all those policies, procedures, that are already in place? How are they effective in terms of implementation? Because the truth is that if you have policy, procedures, and those things are not being implemented, definitely the review should be able to tell you if those things are working or not. And also, I would just say an organization that will be able to carry out safety review will also be an organization that is also in compliance with any ISO standard. Because the truth is that any organization who is committed to carrying out review on a regular basis, like the way we envisage, it means such organizations are in compliance with the ISO standard. Because we all know that many organizations are just there. They are not even in compliance, with the standard. Even some who claim they ISO certified or certification, how many of them are really compliant to the standard? Not to talk of getting involved on the review that we are talking about in the context in which we are discussing today. So I would just say, as a professional, we just have to keep encouraging organization, encourage ourselves as a professional to push, to advocate, and to encourage any organization that we find ourselves to be able to carry out review. At least that can be able to, it can be able to make us spot out some issue at the immediate level without involving maybe a proper expert in terms of auditors to manage health and safety management system. I think that's just one or two things I feel like contributing to this discussion. I will also give the room to other people who have one or two things to say to pour more light on this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Stephen. So can we get other contributions?
Thank you very much for this presentation today. When I saw the topic, I think the topic was what really caught my attention, workplace safety review. So I really want to, because a lot of things were, spinning on my head. First, a lot of different terminology. For example, thanks to Mr. Steve, because he has been able to clarify and differentiate between the management review aspects. And during the presentation, of course, the safety review was properly demystified. And my own interest today is just, I want to ask a question for clarity, just for clarity, to differentiate between a safety review and from the presentation that was made, what I understood here is that the tool for implementing the safety review is the management walkabout inspection. I don't know if I'm correct. Like the walkthrough, the management safety and management walkthrough, we usually have maybe on weekly basis in our workplace. So I don't know, maybe this is the exercise we use in implementing the safety review, because after the management walkthrough, we usually develop an action point, an action plan. where all observations with regards to maybe unsafe behavior, safety hazards that are identified, every action item will be listed. And of course, they are being tracked to know which has been closed out and which is still pending, and follow-up is made to ensure those actions are closed. So if I'm correct from the presentation, everything just, directed and pointed towards the walkabout inspection, terms of implementing this management review as well. So just for clarity, is it the walkthrough that we conduct on the site, maybe once on weekly basis, and safety committee meetings that are done? Are these the tool we use in actually implementing the workplace safety review?
Okay. Thank you, Mr. David. This is also a question that could be ringing in other people's head. So, like, we are here to learn from each other, and nobody knows it all. Now, safety review is not the same as that management walkthrough. Management walkthrough is a means of accomplishing safety review. It's like an aspect of safety review. It's not the entire safety review. Now, look at one instance. When I talked about the procedures or sequence of conducting safety review, first is a team is formed. Okay, so that team is not the management team. So this team comprises of majorly safety professionals. So the management is not involved in this safety review. This is different from that management review in the health and safety management system, because in that one, the entire management team gets involved in this review. But this safety review is majorly carried out by professionals, safety professionals, because they understand what they're actually looking at for. Now, the next thing that is required is to evaluate the incident rates in the past. Okay, so this is part of the preparatory stage. When you have put all these things in place, then walkthrough or walkabout is now added as part of it. Okay, you see that safety review it's not something that we do more often. It's not something that many people do, because we have other activities like safety inspection, safety audit, management walkthrough that is actually taken all the time. And you see that safety review can also come before an audit. If you are preparing for an audit, maybe an external audit, you can decide to undertake a safety review, which you will be able to look into your programs, look into the policies, the procedures, and be able to find out if it's actually meeting the legal requirement. But the major aim is not for legal compliance. The major aim is for improvement in the system. Okay, so that is what I have to add, and I'm sure that can add something else.
Let me just add one or two things. I think I'll put it, my own understanding, I'll put it this way, like, when I say the health and safety review, it's just like, it's something that, like you have said, is not a legal requirement, but when you look deep into the management system, like for the ISO, for example, you discover that, I'll just say, is a kind of best practice that should be practiced by we professional internally within an organization. There's no law or standard that said, okay, you must do this review, because internally you can just have it as a kind of your safety program, whereby you look like, okay, when you do it, you can be able to measure how effective your safety system is within your organization prior to management system audit, just like the way Mr. Johnson have explained, because in the management system area or aspect of audit, which whereby you require third party, either external or probably internal auditor to check the management system. In that aspect, we know we are being compliant with the legal requirements, okay? But for the audit per se, the review of a safety review on is just like, I think it should be just personal. You know, if you are a manager, you can decide to implement such, you know, review, you know, which is advisable, that you see that when you do it like that, you discover that that will might be able to reduce stress during proper audit preparation. And also walkthrough is, when you look at that walkthrough, is a kind of subset in a process of what would I call it, the ISO, the standard level, because when you look at those clauses and everything, you discover that there was a place where management people will have to come in as part of the process. So in that aspect, you discover that the law requires it. Management, they should do a kind of walkthrough. They should do a site visit, all those kind of things that is required for people to do in that aspect. You understand? But in just this review aspect, like just Mr. Joseph have said, you might not necessarily involve the management. That doesn't mean that you might not involve the top management. You know, for those who are really like committed, they can get involved. There's nothing wrong about it. But this one is just like a personal thing within the safety department to actually check internally that, okay, and things are in line with what we have set down from our management system. I think that's, for me, that's my own better way to make the explanation clear.
Thank you for that contribution. Mr. Francis, I think you were trying to say something.
Okay, I think for me, this safety review topic, this review topic, as per se, is a system improvement. And this system improvement cannot be done alone by HSC. Initially, yes, what my fellow music said is right. There is no system that said if you don't do a review, then you are violating one standard. But the review, as per se, is a requirement to improve the system. And in how do we improve system when we do this review? It gives room for issues or policies that have been addicted that needs to be reactivated in a company, and how some addicted work process or procedures that needs to be changed. It is through this review that will be carried out maybe once in a year, with inclusive of top management, because you cannot revise any policy or any work method without the involvement of the top management of the organization. Yes, the review is not part of the walkthrough. The walkthrough is a tool of its own to identify, in fact, it's going to be part, because some of the issues that will be identified from the walkthrough at the end will be brought into this review. And there are some policies, again, that have been affected that during the process of the review that will be brought before management, and management will also give an approval that, okay, let's go into a new a review to see how we can reinforce this new policy for workers or for the system to improve. So I don't think we can do a review, safety review, without involving the top management of any organization, because most of the enforcement will be driven by the top management, the CEO, the chief executive officers, or the operations managers, and all that. So I see that this review of a team, like me, I have been able to do only one review since I've been working in my career. which I can boldly say, I've been part of one review, and that review took about 2 hours. The top management was involved, where even if some issues of training that some persons that need to be added into training, or some requirement of training for some individual persons was also brought in, why they should be trained. So review as a process is going to touch the whole system of every organization. It's not going to be an HSE per se driven process alone. Because if it's an HSE driven process alone, it will be difficult to achieve a successful review. Because from the review, you are going to even touch some of the ISO clauses. So that when you have an audit, that an external body is coming, and some of the questions they are going to ask, some of the evidence from the review minute you are going to present, and some of the evidence will be there that we discussed it, we are waiting for management implementation and approval. So a review for me, is going to be a process that goes around the whole system to enable a new bread system to be reviewed for a proper implementation, for a system to function in effective manners. That is how I think it should be. And the one I witnessed, that is how it was done. Issues that were discussed there, some of the issues were even issue of 6 years that are still lying low, that are yet to be getting management approval. So the review process is a detailed process. It is not only an issue of hazard in the site or a safe working practice that has not been. So it's a full process that involves top management.
All right, thank you, Mr. Francis. That was very clear and detailed explanation. So thank you for that wonderful contribution. Okay.
Yes, good evening, everybody.
Good evening. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes. I really want to appreciate you for your contributions and the speaker, all that he brought into the picture. I appreciate it, actually. I just went online on a definition of a safety review. It's a thorough examination of a work site with the intent of uncovering safety hazards and other risks. So it includes an assessment of the effectiveness of the organization's safety programs and initiatives. Yeah, I actually think that in this light, I actually think that safety review majorly is involved. We get involved in safety review by uncovering hazards and risks that may be present in the workplace and providing control measures to it. Because you're going to find out that the whole issue of reviews, well, sometimes you want to say review is target management review. That is management review. But safety review involves the safety professionals coming and profiling solutions to this risk and see on how the really making and see on how proper measures are put in place in controlling hazard and risk. So, but we really also want to say here that it depends on the light in which you are looking at it. So, because you can do a walkthrough. You can do a walkthrough on a work site, and when you do a walkthrough, and maybe you as a safety professional, you are doing a walkthrough in terms of checking for kind of inspections at the work site. Now, this is safety review in its own aspect. I also want to say here that not all walkthroughs, my own can do walkthroughs. So just this is my hazards and risk and provide control measures. So I'm also carrying out a review. So sometimes I just did a safety review at my workplace, and I was able to draft out, because the workplace I am presently, they don't have GSAs that control some of that. And I alone, as a civil professional in this organization, draft out the GSA that provides control persistent in the work even before I even came. I heard it in the jobs that they do. So all these things we're discussing, it depends on the light in which we're also discussing it too. So walkthroughs, reviews, stand down. Then they are, most of the time they're closely related. You understand? So that's my little one cent contribution.
All right, thank you, Mojede. Though their network was shivering, but your points were all clear. Your points were clear, though your network was shivering. So thank you for that wonderful contribution. And one thing that we all know as safety professionals is that all these tools, all of them aims at improving the workplace, right? So every of the tools aim at improving the workplace. So some people go extra mile, while some people are comfortable with just safety inspections. Some people are just comfortable with just going about the regular weekly walkthrough, and that is enough for their workplace. Whereas others go to the extra mile of implementing both safety inspections, management walkthrough, and also safety reviews at regular intervals. So this, in as much as it's not a legal requirement, or there's no standard that says that you must do safety safety review, but it depends on that organization and how, at what level or how esteem they hold safety in their workplace. So thank you all for that wonderful contribution.
Good evening, all.
Good evening.
Yes, I want to make my own contribution on this topic. The safety review, in my own understanding, is applicable in every organization, especially in the safety department. When you find yourself in an organization or a new site, they already have some laid down procedures they use in combating the hazards and the risk and the systems in place. But sometimes you find out that these procedures are not related, or they're not reasonably applicable. That is, they are not practically possible to apply due to the scope of work being carried out in the site. Or sometimes the permit system is too elaborate for them to follow. Or sometimes the procedure we are using to address it is too difficult to accomplish. So these things are being assessed during a safety review. We check the effectiveness of the system. We check the effectiveness of the procedures. We check the effectiveness of the understanding of the people related to a particular scope. So in some sites, they said this is the procedure they want to follow, whereas in some other places, they said this is the procedure they want to follow. This might be applicable to this point, and in other sense, it is not applicable. So this review helps us to get the proper procedure that is easily achievable, that is easily understood, easily applicable by all. So a safety review is a very, very important a very, very important action that needs to be taken seriously and practiced regularly, because it helps to improve the effectiveness, or if we can make some addition or subtraction to the policies in place. So that is what I want to contribute regarding this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. David. That is superb and that is well taken. Do you have any other contribution?
Can I wrap it up with one or two statements?
Okay.
Okay, just like because the last speaker just make me remember what to say. I think maybe probably we might put it in a particular context that seems this way. I believe as an health and safety practitioner, we all do have different policies and procedure in our respective organization or sites. So now, maybe putting it in this perspective is, from the word safety review, it means for you to review certain thing, it means that thing is in existence, right? So it might be when you are doing a safety review, you might decide to say you want to review how the organization has been even doing what we call safety tour, safety inspection, even from with the management team and all that. You might want to be saying, okay, how has the organization fare in terms of hazard identification? How have they been able to, what have they done so far in terms of delivery training for the workers? So in this aspect of safety review, we can begin to say we are reviewing what is already being implemented on our respective sites. It's not a thing that we are introducing something new or something like that. We can be saying, okay, the organization do normal monthly walkthrough, maybe in terms of emergency drill, does the organization do it according to what is established in the management or ISO management system? We can now begin to do our own safety review in all those small subset areas to be able to determine, okay, if things are functioning properly. I think that understanding just came to my mind, and I feel I should share it. It's just like when you have a risk assessment, when you look at the last aspect of the risk assessment process is you have to review. You understand? You have to review it if there's any changes or something like that. So I believe safety review should come in that aspect or in that light, that there are already policy, there are already procedure. Are we following it? Are we keeping up to date? If yes, we can say good. If no, we can say no. Thank you.
Yes,
All
right. that is good. David, go ahead.
Okay, just one last and final question from me. Based on everything that have been said, I think we've been able to categorize them correctly, like the management review, the safety review, the management walkthrough. The last question is that, can a checklist be utilized for the execution of the safety review? Although in a project where I work, this safety review has been carried out or performed, but unknown to me that that's actually a safety review that is being executed by the group of safety managers that were on the project. So my manager then with the subcontractor HSC managers on their own, apart from the construction and HSC management walkabout inspections that are done on weekly basis, they choose a day of the week and they usually on their own go out to the site on a walk down for inspection, just to inspect, analyze, and review to see if everything done on site is in compliance with the policies and procedure, the safety strategies and initiative. So it's now it dawns on me that, oh, what those guys have been doing were actually a safety review, because I'll be wondering, why is it that only the safety managers, they come together and they kind of repeat walkthroughs that we've done. So now I realize that it was actually a safety review they've been doing. So please, I would like to know, can a checklist be utilized for the execution of the safety review?
Absolutely.
Just like as Steve has said,
absolutely,
that we need to
absolutely.
refer back to hazard, emergency response, some of those clauses we have in the ISO management system, to see if we are in compliance as well. And even the project.
To answer your question, sorry, absolutely,
Yeah.
you need a checklist, because the truth is that when you look at the definition of checklist, you discover that even in your respective home, you want to check some certain things if it's working. You create, because the checklist will only help you not to forget some information that you are supposed to check. Is just going to guide you, towards achieving the objective of that review you are doing. See, even if you are building a house, you should have a checklist. Say, okay, have I done this? Have I done this? So checklist is a general something that can be applicable in any aspect, whether safety, business, anything. You understand? So it's not only checklist is not only done in health and safety. Even in my past organization that I work, even the guys who go in for maintenance, they have checklists for things they need or they do on a daily maintenance work. So it's not only even on a safety level that we need this checklist. So I will tell you categorically 100%. Without checklist, you cannot achieve your review. Even the ISO auditors, they have a checklist. ISO, the standard, we have checklists for it to say, okay, have we audit this aspect? Have we audit the context of the organization? Blah, 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 like that. So checklist is the perfect and 100% applicable in that process. Thank you.
But for me, in this case, I will disagree on this David question. I will totally disagree.
Go ahead, sir. Go ahead, sir.
For your two managers to come to site to carry out a kind of to do a double check of a day before activity or whatever it's called. I can say this, they just came for an hazard hunt to reconfirm if you guys are maintaining the status quo and following the safety protocols. The one you said they did was the proper review, because on the review, there should be a proper agenda on the scope of how a review process will be done. But the checklist is just a guide for me to know the scope of the extent of what I'm going to do. Even in the ISO standard, yes, a scope will be defined, then the checklist for this scope will be developed for us not to forget the area we are going to audit. But on this review issue, maybe we will revisit it again so that everybody will go back to their drawing board and redust their archives again so that we can deliberate on it properly because of time.
That is clear. I like what is happening today, and that is why we are here. We look at things from two angles and from two perspectives, and we learn in both sides. For me, I think a checklist is required in this angle, because without checklist, you might be forgetting some things and you might be overlooking some things as well. So with checklist, you will guide yourself. The review, safety review might not be completed in a day, depending on the size of the organization and depending on the size of the workplace. So if you have a checklist, you can be able to know where you stopped in that a particular phase, and you know where to continue next. So checklist will be like a proper guide to help in achieving this. And the checklist itself can also be reviewed. During your safety review, you can encounter some things that you did not include in your checklist. So you can also review your checklist as part of your safety review to be able to ensure that you capture everything in the next phase of your safety review. So we are here to learn, and we are looking at different perspectives of this understanding. So just like Francis advised, we might come back to this topic again. And I think I failed by, I didn't share the topic on time, so I will try to share the topic at most Mondays, so that we'll be able to, if you want to research, so that we can be able to research on that topic. So thank you guys for that wonderful contribution. I'll stop the recording, and I have something I want us to discuss.